Welcome to Drop Pod, episode 24. Thanks for joining, everybody. Oh man, I've been procrastinating this week because I just got an ultra-wide monitor. And friends, it's pretty good. I'm not gonna lie. I've been enjoying it recently. Trying to navigate the waters because there are some games that just don't have ultra-wide support just yet. And the games that do have ultra-wide support, very immersive. I was playing Resident Evil 4, the remake, and it's everything that's on the screen and all the details. It's just been really good. To those of you that watch me on the channel, you would have known I've been with a single monitor for the past year or so. I haven't pulled the trigger on a monitor. I've been debating for a while if I wanted a 4K or I wanted to step up in resolution. Do I want ultra-wide? Do I want HDR? And I ended up just getting an ultra-wide with HDR. And so far it's been working out. Wanted to start the episode by talking a wee bit about Ubisoft. I feel like, especially now with Ubisoft reporting that these are its lowest earnings and their stocks have been the lowest we've ever seen in a while, it's going to be a really weird ballgame. There are a lot of people saying right now that the upcoming Assassin's Creed Shadows is too big to fail. Which I don't think I've heard that in a while. Game you've made is too big to fail. Seems like a lot of studios right now are worried about becoming the next Concord. But I don't think Assassin's Creed Shadows, especially with all of the controversy surrounding this game, is immune to the pressure of being lauded as the next Concord. Everything about this release is worrying me, especially as an Assassin's Creed fan. Initially, I was not going to play this game. It might turn out that I will once my GPU gets here, because apparently you get a free Ubisoft game. And this has happened every time I have upgraded to a GPU. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, and I got Watch Dogs Legion. Both of these games did terribly. Ghost Recon Breakpoint, it sort of started falling back in line towards the end of its life cycle, but that's not what you want to hear for a game you planned as a live service. Speaking of live service, it's one of the things that worries me about Shadows. They're planning for the game to be a live service post-launch with the inclusion of their, I forget what they called it, but there's supposed to be a auxiliary Assassin's Creed releasing with Assassin's Creed Shadows. That's going to be very, very interesting, because everybody is telling you, don't do this. Please don't do this. We don't need it. We don't even want it. But Ubisoft sees this as a sustainable business move. Reminder, this is the same Ubisoft that doesn't want to do single-player games. They feel it's not profitable, just because it's not live service, but with the current industry trends pointing towards people are just not feeling live service right now. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. They planned on just doing supplementary releases intermittently to keep you playing Assassin's Creed, a single-player game, and which I feel like single-player games aren't designed with that concept in mind, to just keep you playing. You know, that's not to say that there aren't games out there that keep you coming back. That's not what I'm saying at all, but rather single-player games aren't designed with you coming back season after season to try out something new. But whatever this auxiliary Assassin's Creed is, that's what they're planning. We have wanted for a while for there to be a Assassin's Creed set in feudal Japan, and I feel like this is such a bittersweet way of doing it. Ubisoft is aiming to capture that nostalgia for those Assassin's Creed fans, but then also keep reeling in the fans that really enjoy the RPG elements of what Assassin's Creed is. I remember when there was a lot of franchise fatigue. That was the whole point of swapping over to this RPG era that we're in right now. And, it's not terrible. At least I don't think. I really enjoyed Origins. I loved Odyssey. It was hit or miss for Valhalla, even though I did play through a good chunk of it. I think that was so long. It was so long. It just ran on and on. You practically had 2 games in Valhalla with Valhalla, but then the Norse mythology behind it. And then we got Mirage, which was technically an expansion to Valhalla. I didn't touch it. I didn't think it was, from what I've seen, I didn't think it was like too terrible, but it's not what we were expecting in terms of we wanted a Assassin's Creed that was just more about the stealth, the social stealth that the franchise was known for. And Ubisoft thought, yeah, this is going to catch a lot of people, or reel in a lot of people that really enjoyed that era. There's a lot of other things surrounding this game as far as controversy is concerned. My concerns are more rooted behind what they think they're going to accomplish post-release with live service elements in a single-player experience. From what it seems like, there's going to be a battle pass in whatever this auxiliary Assassin's Creed is. And within the battle pass, you might just get a skin, some cosmetics, things that are basically hands-off for Ubisoft, so they don't have to worry about it. Just set it, forget it. And they don't really have to worry about too much. I brought up to Austin, forget how many episodes back, but I had asked, how well do you think X-Defiant is doing in this current climate? X-Defiant is Ubisoft's free-to-play project. It launched, and there's a lot of people that were really, really happy with this game. It was just a classic era free-to-play shooter. You know the types all too well. Ubisoft is not new to free-to-play either. So we thought, okay, this is going to release pretty good, and this might have a pretty decent shelf life. I think people will get tired of it because it's just a classic free-to-play experience arena shooter thing. That's reportedly not doing very well. So much so that Ubisoft basically gave the team a shelf life. And if the next season doesn't do too well, that's just going to be it, basically, for X-Defiant. Ubisoft isn't going to put any more money into the project. I've not played X-Defiant too much post-launch. I think I spent like 2 days playing it. I knew I wasn't going to buy anything. There's nothing in that game where I'm like, I absolutely need to buy the battle pass. I'm so tired of seeing these extravagant skins, the art style that doesn't even fit the overall tone of the game. So I decided, you know what, I'm just not going to. And as a free-to-play player for this game, I thought, yeah, you know, it's pretty good. I just don't see myself staying committed. Me playing X-Defiant actually reignited my love for Counter-Strike, so then I went back to the CS2 for a bit. Still playing it on and off when I have the time. But it's just strange. This these business motives from Ubisoft's perspective is that as long as it's a live service, it can do no wrong. We're seeing with X-Defiant that is not the case. Ubisoft already tried a similar tactic with Origins and Odyssey with microtransaction stores. Basically all of the bells and whistles that you would see in a live service game in a single player format. But Assassin's Creed Shadows needs to do well because this currently feels like the death nail for Ubisoft. I don't want to see Ubisoft fail. I'm going to say that on the record. I'd rather they don't fail. I'd rather that this comes out and everybody just enjoying it, but there's nothing really there in terms of substance. There's nothing really there right now that would speak, especially to fans of the series, that we should have our faith placed in this current era of Ubisoft. I said a while ago, I don't like seeing any game fail. And I believe that even with Ubisoft, a massive AAA publisher and developer, because I grew up with this company. Splinter Cell, Beyond Good and Evil, basically the entire Tom Clancy suite of video games. Very fond games in my childhood. I'd rather not see such a legendary studio fail. And because of that failure, that studio is just gone. I'd rather not see that. I think people that really wish for these sort of things to happen in the gaming industry, I think that's kind of just the wrong opinion. I think the optics are way too skewed to see, these massive games just fall 6 feet under in terms of Concord. Games like Ghost Recon Breakpoint, current games like Destiny 2, with its huge drop in players. Helldivers 2 is another example of a game that is kind of shooting itself in the foot. We're expecting a big patch per the recording of this episode. For all we know, by this episode releasing, that patch might have come out, and we'll see how the numbers are doing then. But it's we're treading in some weird water. I don't think we've ever really seen this in the gaming space. A lot of people are pushing back, especially with the way the economy is. People don't have that sort of reluctance to just shell out money, especially towards a service that can go away at any point. That's the big fear right now. You buy into a game, all of a sudden it's gone. It happened to Concord. We only ever thought that was going to happen to games that just in a very flooded ecosystem, free-to-play experiences for the most part, but this was a first-party game on a platform that was supposed to make it its home for however long Concord was planning on shelving itself for. I don't get it. But what I do know is that I'd rather not just see a game completely fall under, flat on its face, or on its ass even. If the game is bad, the game is bad, and I'm not going to argue that, but I'd rather just have the games industry in a healthy state. I don't think the games industry can be in a healthy state if we're continuing to release things under duress and under the pretense that we need to make something that can be as profitable as it can be, or it needs to be the safest release that we can possibly make. I digress. It's Drop Pod. Wanted to talk about how nice it is and how strange it is. It's kind of bittersweet when you can just go back to an older game. I feel like we're very fortunate in this current era. There's so much to play right now. I don't find myself too caring for a new release. I maybe have like one game out of the year that I'm just like, oh, I need to get this. But for the most part, I can go back to an older game. I'll have just as much fun there as any current release. And I think there's a lot of facets to that. A lot of games release with very poor quality control. Whether that's the service not working on launch or performance issues on launch. I play from PC. You couldn't do that back in the day of like Xbox 360 or just the original Xbox. You couldn't just release something and it couldn't perform well on the console. That was unheard of. It was like with Dragon's Dogma, that was reported to not work very well on console. There was a lot of people that had performance issues, and still to this day I have a lot of performance issues on PC with that game. Destiny 2, every major expansion usually sees a large influx of players, and for some reason the servers are never stable enough to handle that intake, which is crazy. So I can go back to an older game. Like recently I've been playing Killing Floor 2, which I used to describe this game as fast food gaming. something to kind of have like mindless fun in, and then you stop playing it. For some people, that's like their game. That is the game that they play. For me, I'm more of a seasonal warrior. I'll come back every now and then. I think that's a healthy way of doing it. But a lot of people like the idea of just being married up to a game. And that is your game. That is what you play. For instance, I go back to Doom like every so often. Doom 1 and 2. And I can have mindless hours of fun inside of those games, given the mod support, the multiple ports. You know, you have the enhanced edition on Steam now. You have GZ Doom. You have Quest Z Doom, which is the VR port. And I can go back to any one of these ports at any point. I could spend a good few hours playing Doom 1 or Doom 2, just going through mods, just playing the game in general. So it's like right now, feels like, you know, what do I need all of these other games for? And, you know, I don't, well, no, I do. Sorry. I was going to say, I don't know the general demographic of my audience. No, I do. You guys are youngins. So you guys don't really, some of you anyway, you guys don't really get where I'm coming from with this, where, you know, you were lucky back in the day if you got a new game. I remember watching my dad play Resident Evil, the first one on PS1, like way back when. We were both like super in love with that game. And that was the game that we had. That was the game we played. And then there would be other games that would come out. And I'd be lucky if I even got a whiff of those. The original Xbox came out. I forget what Madden had launched with that game. I don't remember if it was Madden 02 or Madden 01. But then there was also Halo. And that was it. Like that was it. That Fable, Halo, and whatever the first Madden to release for the console was. That would basically be it. Like, those were the games that I had. And I was lucky to see another game, if that. So, I mean, it was just, it wasn't feasible, right? You had to, like, go to a store. You had to sit there and look at reviews from magazines or word of mouth from friends if you wanted to get something. Games back then were made with the idea, like, this needs to fit a niche. The game needs to do well. In order to do well, it just has to be fun, period. So that's not to say that developers aren't making games like that in mind today, but a lot of games, especially if they're AAA, are made with the idea that it needs to be profitable before fun or any one of those metrics are concerned. That's very worrying. Yet people that used to like line up on a release, like Halo 2 that was such a crazy experience, man. Like, I was 8 years old when Halo 2 launched. I remember taking a sick day with my stepbrother from school. That's how big that game was. And my dad and my stepmom at the time knew, no, we were going to play this. Literally lining up at a GameStop just to buy this game. Like, are you crazy? You out of your mind? People camping out overnight just to get this game. Remember the news reports back then too were crazy. I'd never seen such a thing yet. Like, people were really excited about this game. But you don't have to do that anymore. Right? You go online, you see a game. Do I want to pick this up? Now let's look at the myriad of Steam reviews. Let's go watch a few gameplay videos. Is this game worth my time? Well, these reviews will decide that for me. Do I want this game? I can just buy it off of their storefront rather than having to go to a physical location. I know I'm showing my age a little bit with this episode, but I just kind of miss that feeling of gaming. I think that's when, especially like when Halo 3 came out, that was crazy. People were going nuts over that game for how good Halo 2 was, and now it's like, oh, here's Halo 3 on the next gen, on that new. I don't think it gets any better than that, really. Everything that lined up with Halo 3's release, the live action trailers, the general hype surrounding the game, even just its reputation as like, this is the game. If you have an Xbox and you don't have this game, you shouldn't have an Xbox. To rear this back, it's like, even games like that, I can just go back to those games right now. And I happily do that rather than buying a new game. These games I've played for decades now. Drop pod. That one didn't sound very good. And this is why I need to use like sound bites. So it's like consistent every time. Drop pod. Cut. Yeah, I don't think your heart is in it. Is what a director would have told me right there, and I would have went, excuse me? This is my program. I would appreciate if you come off it, actually. To which the director would then say, you're being a little unprofessional right now, aren't you? To which I would then reply, I didn't ask. I'm literally looking all around this room and I can't find a single person who asked. And I'm staring daggers at the director at this point, and the doctor. How long is this bit gonna go on for? You know what's sad is I'm gonna use this as a soundbite later. Like this is going to be in a future episode, and you guys are gonna be like, God, this one really runs on, don't it? The moral of the story is, this is Drop Pod. There's a video that I'm working on. For those of you that actually follow the channel, now that this program is on Spotify, I kind of have to worry about that a little bit more now. But on the channel, I have a series of videos where I just kind of play Doom while I'll just talk about a story. In a way, you could treat it like Drop Pod, but there's Doom in the background. Anyway, I had mentioned on a previous episode that my sister had called me. She was asking, like, is it easy to make friends in your 20s? I'm the wrong person to ask because I'm very reclusive as it is. If I'm working or I'm doing something that pertains to business, I'm as talkative as I need to be. Believe that. But the moment that I clock out for the day, I'm an absolute ghost. I don't talk to nobody. Don't write me. Don't text me. No carrier pigeon. None of that. So I felt like, well, this one's out of my pay grade, but it's your baby sister, so you kind of want to help out. She's in her 20s now. And I really had to think about this over the next few nights when she had asked. Just considering it from a gaming space, it's pretty hard to find those tribes that you can be with. Make those sort of friendships. It used to be a lot easier back in the day. I had mentioned that, the main reasons are there, right? Things or games these days aren't really as casual as they used to be, right? Everybody's trying to like prove themselves, especially if it's something like Call of Duty. I'm sure you guys have seen the Twitter clips or the TikTok clips, depending on where you are. People shaking their cameras around as fast as they possibly can, like they saw a fly on their screen and they can't find it. Discord is as prevalent as it's ever been. So you make these groups and you kind of segment yourself to that group. For some people, it's really hard to like come out of their comfort zone. It's hard to push yourself to just go, yeah, no, I'll talk to these people for sure. Absolutely. These people I don't know. For all I know, could be terrible, terrible, terrible people. And I had mentioned, for some of these people, for some of these groups, that is only your tribe. So long as you're playing that game that you found them in, right? Those are only your people when you're doing the thing that they are doing. I recommend it to my sister, like, you have a good head on your shoulders and you're in clubs. And I know you have that circle of friends that you do have. So I would hold on to those relationships. Those are good people. If they're not, well, then segment yourself immediately. But if you judge them as good character and you have the same hobbies, same interests, then hold on to those people. Because oftentimes that's what you need. For me in particular, I don't think there's that saying that you can never have too many friends, but I don't necessarily believe that. For me, I'm somebody that will X somebody out of my life very quickly. Ex-girlfriends, friends. Like, if I deem you unnecessary to what I plan to achieve and what I'm trying to do, like, that's it. I'm grateful for the people that I have in my circle, and I will keep those people in my circle. That's the discipline. I mention often that we're creatures of habit, right? So for a lot of people, it's very uncomfortable to put yourself in a situation where you want to talk to somebody, or you want to reach out, especially if it's like a Discord group, right? That sort of stuff is crazy. All these random people, especially if it's Destiny, you guys already know where I'm coming from. They invite you to this LFG. For those of you not in the know, that means looking for group. So it's just a group of players that get together to do a activity in the game. For Destiny, it's usually always like raids. Raids are 6-player activities. And you have 5 other people that you may or may not know. But you have to be comfortable with them because you're going to be with them for a good chunk of time. And if it works out, you might have a group to play with after. Or you kind of just go your separate ways because you got what you wanted. You played the video game. You pushed yourself out of your comfort zone for a bit. And that's all you really needed to do. And I feel for you guys, man. That's where your comfort zone is. I remember reading countless threads about people that are like, hey, can you guys stop trying to force us to use voice chat? For a lot of people, that's like, what? But it's like, there are some encounters in the raids where we really don't have to speak. Can you guys just kind of ease up? Still referring to Destiny 2 here. Encounters where there doesn't really need to be many words spoken, or the words that are spoken by select individuals that are doing the encounter mechanics while everybody else just kind of defeats the enemies. I really feel for those posts. It's like, hey guys, it's not that easy as you guys make it to just talk to people. I would appreciate if you guys just cool it. Which I understand. I get it. I brought up earlier that everybody's not really playing casually these days, right? Or that the casual ecosystem is kind of just out of tune. There are so many videos, so many tutorials, so many guides, and then you're obviously watching the players themselves. Skill-based matchmaking is also not a very good proponent to this, where you have that need to improve. Otherwise, your match quality is going to be bad as a result, but your match quality is going to be bad if you continue to push yourself. We had this problem inside of Destiny 2 for years. And I'm sorry to bring up Destiny 2 every week, but that was the game. But you found that with the inclusion of skill-based matchmaking, it narrowed the viability of the sandbox, right? Because anything less than optimal, right? And now your match quality is going down. You're playing the weapon that's, very off meta. And yeah, you can probably do pretty well with it, this, that, and the other. But if you're climbing, you suddenly start finding yourself, using the same gear, essentially, as like every other player within your skill bracket. Because the matchmaking meta needs you to do that. Same thing inside of Call of Duty. You'll find people just, especially those videos, the videos on YouTube don't help. You guys know the ones. The thumbnail where the guy's like inspecting the gun. Doesn't matter what game it is. And the title is like, this gun is what? 4 exclamation points. Most broken gun in X game. And the gun is very tame. There's so many good selections in the game, but because this YouTuber says this gun is insane, well, the gun must be insane. So then you start seeing that gun in every match that you play. So I think that, coupled with just the way that communication is inside of video games nowadays, it's just not conducive to a social atmosphere. Brought this up the other episode, and you guys had some very good input in DMs about just how lonely the gaming space feels nowadays. I don't bring this up to single anybody out either. I think that's very brave, and I think this needs to be talked about more in the gaming scene, especially. There's no easy way to fix this, and I believe I said this last time too. I can complain about it, I don't know how you would fix it. So a lot of this starts at the individual, pushing themselves to use the in-game communication methods, pushing themselves to find that Discord group that they can kind of just hang out in. Sometimes it's not easy to find that group, though. There are some games that don't offer good enough tools to find players that kind of match your skill set without going to some auxiliary platform, some service outside of game. Destiny 2 recently put in a in-game LFG, but those don't feel very social. Games like World of Warcraft that have had this system in place for a while, but in and of itself, that's kind of an issue because you don't tend to stick around with those players that you matched with. You grouped up to do this particular content. You got to do that particular content. So now you're good. It's a hard thing to solve without just telling people to grow a backbone, put themselves out there. It's a tall ask, especially from a psychology perspective. So I just hope the general advice that I offered my sister was suitable. I don't want you guys to think that I'm too hard for a certain topic. I didn't just tell her flat out like, oh yeah, just start deleting people from your life, dude. That's not what we're after. Hold on to the relationships that you have. However, if you have judged certain people to be of bad character, then obviously don't keep them around. And if you're in clubs, if you're in social situations, it wouldn't help to kind of make your presence known a bit. Chat with some people, especially because they are in your interests, in your area. But understand that those can be pretty tall orders for some. You are listening to Drop Pod. Final topic I wanted to discuss. It's going to be a little bit out there, but as we all know, people fear what they can't control. Right? There's an aversion to doing things that are out of your norm. As I mentioned previously, we are creatures of habit, meaning we continue to do things even if it's unhealthy. But we do those things because that's comfort. You may stay in a relationship that's obviously toxic, but you stay there because that's what you know. And to succeed from that brings you out of that comfort zone. I've been there. I'm sure many of you have too. I bring this up because, and here's where I get my Destiny talk out of the way for the week, which is good because this is the final topic of the episode. I've been looking through the Steam numbers, and I know people really hate when you bring up Steam numbers. Really hate that. I've been looking at the in-game PvP numbers. This is concerning Trials of Osiris, which is it's a weekly tournament deal where you basically play all the way up until the finals, and then if you beat the finals, then you get some really neat rewards out of it. It's a way to reward the players that are really good at the PvP, and it keeps those players that haven't reached the finals yet coming back because there's that promise of really unique loot, just the status, the prestige of it. Not that many people queuing for it. At the time of this recording, we're nearing around the 22K player mark, which, for a live service, that is not bad at all. Especially as storied as Destiny 2 is. That game's been around. But we get to this nadir, meaning like the bottom, right? Every season where we are broaching or have broached the lowest player counts this game has seen, and we keep breaking that record. Which makes me wonder, there are some people that are very much married to this game, and, there are a lot of people, and I feel like this is everywhere in the gaming space, but there are a lot of people, if they're having a good time, they're just playing the game, you know what I mean? If people are complaining about the game on your Reddit, they're complaining about the game on their forums. They love the game. They love the game so much that they just want it to be in a better place. Some of it is very undermined, especially if we're abusing the devs that produce the game that you enjoy. But I just wonder for these, 20 something thousand players, it's like, when is enough enough? You know what I mean? There's still a lot more ball game inside of Destiny 2, and I feel that, but it seems like every few days, Destiny 2 comes up in my Discord, the Hell Jumpers Discord, for those of you that listen through Spotify. And I keep trying to check the optics on what people think of Destiny, especially because my group was, formed around Bungie. The newer people in the group came from Destiny 2 in particular. So, I'm constantly trying to gauge interest. Like, okay, well, you're not playing the game, but why is that? What's the actual reason other than here are all of the talking points I've heard from other people, and here's how I'm forming that opinion. It's a very complicated game where people will just feel very tired, very sick to their core. And it was recently reported in an article published by IGN that Don McGowan, in a LinkedIn post, who was the former chief legal officer at Bungie, was basically, as he was out the door, Sony was starting to step in. And I've been telling you guys this for a while. Sony gave Bungie a year to kind of get things together, and, whatever happens, happens. And by whatever happens, that means Bungie needs to get it together, or we're just going to step in on our investment. And it seems like they are stepping in on their investment. So what Sony basically told Bungie to do is to basically get their heads out of their asses and just run Destiny 2 as a business. There are things I don't necessarily believe in this approach. They're talking about stop focusing heavily on pleasing the core fans and start attracting new players, which I don't think I don't think that was ever the intent. I don't think they're trying to please the core audience. I think they're continuously doing things that are meant to bring in newer players, in-game LFG, the watering down of certain aspects of the game. And with a certain recent blog post about the future and plans of Destiny 2 under the leadership of a new game director, we're going to see that in its directory. The directory has always been a major part of Destiny 2, but that's going to get a facelift. That's going to make it easier to navigate, especially for newer players. A new business model, which involves releasing 2 medium-sized expansions per year rather than an annual one. Doing everything that Bungie can to increase retention. There's also the prospect of the new Bungie mobile game. And I have everybody in my Discord telling me that this isn't going to do well, yada, yada, yada. Listen, these were the same sentiments spoken about Diablo Immortal. And low-key, that is one of Blizzard's best performing games under the table. For as much as people vilified this game, it's keeping business afloat in the Diablo franchise. And I've been saying for a while, like, this is the safest move that Bungie can do. Just make this mobile game. And I'm not going to enjoy it. Will I play it? Yeah. I'm a Destiny fan. I don't know. I'll play it. I'll try it out. That's basically it. For those 20-something thousand players, I hope that they are getting what they want out of the game. I hope that, because somebody has to. I more or less was able to wean myself off of the game. I don't feel so, married up to it. I don't feel bad when I'm, missing out on something, because it's it's just, I don't need to do this anymore. I'm fortunate enough to have gotten what I got out of the game, if that makes sense. But in the grand scheme of things, I don't need to push myself to play this game anymore. I would like a MMO that I could actually sink my teeth into. I'm not interested in Final Fantasy, sorry to say. I've tried to get into it. I just can't. I played 7. I think we all played 7 at some point. That was about it. I had 2 of the games on Game Boy. World of Warcraft I get into. I dabble every couple of expansions, but that's like if somebody is like actually pushing me to do so. I'm not going to go out of my way to play it. It's everything that I need out of the game I can just get through some video. And I want to keep up with the story. So I'm hoping that at some point that there will just be like a good like looter MMO. Some of you are going to tell me in DMs, oh, have you tried First Ascendant? I'm going to go, yeah, no, that's just not for me, bud. It's just not for me. But thank you, though. I told Austin last week on the episode that he was on, but there's no other game that kind of fits that mold. And that's why I was really sad about Concord, because that was like the first game that had that, like, and it was very prevalent in the gameplay. It had that Bungie DNA, that weighty gunplay, that arcadey style of movement. Speaking of, I've been seeing a lot of videos lately of people attempting to fix the character designs of Concord, and I find it interesting. I've been learning a lot about just composition work, line detail, from just watching these videos alone. I'm not even an artist, but it's interesting to watch people that are in the art community talk about these things. And it's like, well, here's this character in the game, and notice how all of the colors here are dull. But Concord was going for this 80s aesthetic feel, which a lot of things in the 80s were like everything popped. So here's what I'm going to do to this character. I'm just going to bring out the colors a lot more, and then all of a sudden, without any real changes, other than changing the contrast, the tone, made the character look a lot better. I was actually kind of surprised, like how simple things like that can actually be for a character. So it's been an interesting few weeks, just watching all of the post-mortem discussion around Concord. Because before then, nobody was talking about this game, but then after the fact, everybody's like, yeah, here's what went wrong, this, that, and the other. Which it's surprising that everybody agreed, like, we're not buying this game. We're not playing this. Very heavy. That's going to do it for me this week. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Bye-bye. That wasn't a very good outro. I realized that. Am I going to redo it? Probably not. And I keep changing it up. I have the intro down. Welcome to Drop Pod. Like, you guys expect me to do that now. So when I don't do that, that's like a problem, right? I'm gonna go now. Oh, that's my outro for streams. Okay, well, we'll work on it.